Sox Podcast. On today's episode, we'll be hearing from Colson Montgomery about where he'll play in 2025 and some fallout of the 40-man protection from yesterday. I don't know what the exact wording is, but we'll tell you on the CHGO White Sox Podcast next. Welcome into CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from the CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago in Studio A. This is the CHGO White Sox Podcast. We have the full CHGO White Sox Podcast crew with you. I'm Sean Anderson. Alongside me, our CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. You can read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. We're being produced today by our pal, Sarah.
Hi.
Howdy. Hit that thumbs up button. Tell us hello. Hit that subscribe button. We got a ton of great Chicago sports content here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel for you, whether you're looking for Bears fallout or reaction from the loss on Sunday, whether you're looking for a pre or post game for doubles as that's taking place tonight, or Blackhawks, Cubs, etc. content. We got you covered on the White Sox here for the next hour. On today's show, we'll be hearing from Colson Montgomery, who spoke to Vinnie and the rest of the assembled media about his 2024 and what he expects for 2025. And then we will talk about the roster crunch that we saw yesterday, protection from the Rule 5 draft. That's why Colson Montgomery was added to the 40-man roster, so he wasn't eligible for the Rule 5 draft. We'll talk about the people that are eligible because it seems like the White Sox should have the number one draft pick.
They do have the number one draft pick.
They do have the number one draft pick. I said it with a little bit of hesitancy there because I wasn't fully sure, but now I am. All right, it is ready to get into the Colson Montgomery talk. Bruce Levine starts off by asking Colson, what was it like to return to the Arizona Fall League in 2024?
Yeah, how's it going? It was good. I mean, I really enjoyed going back to the Fall League. I felt like a veteran there, a little more mature there, just because I was there last year too. And being in AAA, I mean, I feel like definitely helped going there because I feel like there was a lot of younger pitchers and things like that. So I felt like it kind of helped me get back to who I was, of being disciplined at the plate, with being passive, but also aggressive at the same time. But the club was really happy with what I did there. They were really happy with my last 4 to 6 weeks during the regular season. And then they were also really happy with me going to the Fall League and not really proving, just kind of showing what I can do pretty much. I know it was probably not a disappointing kind of my year, but I mean, everybody goes through struggles and things like that. So it was a really cool experience to fail, I feel like, and then also kind of find yourself again in the last 4 to 6 weeks and then into the Fall League.
People say that winners learn most from failure. If you could say there was failure and then success, would you be satisfied with that? Is that the answer that you got from the Fall League and from the end of the season?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, being a competitor and wanting to be the best, I don't want to fail. I don't want to lose. I don't want to do anything bad. But I mean, like I've said before, like if you never failed or anything like that, then how could you know what you need to get better on and what you can improve on? So definitely the season was not a failure or disappointment at all, just because of all the things that I've learned about myself and about how I am as a baseball player. So I definitely learned not to take things for granted, and also that being 100% ready and committed to baseball, and this is my life, and just being the best that I can be as a person and baseball player is really what I was just what I want to be. I just want to be the best for myself and to be the best for the club.
Hey, Colson, ending on a positive note like you did both in the regular season and in the Fall League, how big of a difference does that make in your mind going into the offseason? I mean, had it ended where you were still at kind of a frustrated point versus now it ending where you're a little more happy and confident, what big difference does that make for you as you move forward?
I think that I got two emotions with it. One, I'm happy and excited that I ended on a good note and back to what I need to be and better. But also, I have a whole bunch of hunger and frustration and not disappointment, embarrassment in myself, but kind of just that fire in me that I always want to do good. And the fact that I didn't perform the way I wanted to for most of the year, it kind of drives me crazy. And it's kind of fueling the fire in my off-season work of, hey, I gotta not really I gotta prove myself again, but I kind of just gotta get back to where I was and get back to being the guy that everybody knows that I am. Um, and that comes in the happy and exciting of that I did get back to that at the end of the year and into the fall league. So I got two emotions going into the off season.
How have you kind of been able to find a balance there? Because I know both you and the team also were kind of upfront about, those frustrations maybe kind of getting to you a little bit sometime during the season. How have you kind of been able to figure out how to have that frustration be kind of a force for good rather than something that's going to hinder you?
I literally just got off the phone with Skip about this. The biggest thing was I just accepted it. I accepted that I had some failures, I struggled, and what am I going to do next? I feel like throughout the year I was kind of fighting it. I'm just being like, oh no, I'm not in the slump. I'm not in this. I'm not in that. But then once I just kind of accepted it, I was just like, all right, what do I do now? What do I got to do to get better? What do I got to do to be the best guy that I can be for the team? And I mean, once that clicked with me, it was just that after it was just smooth sailing after that.
I guess how would you balance, wanting to go end on a good note or wanting to kind of play the way you wanted to play versus, not playing all of AFL or playing a 180 game season and whatever, considerations would have to go with something like that.
So going into the fall league, I wouldn't say that I was happy with having to go, but at the same time, I knew that's what I needed. So sometimes you got to make sacrifices and things like that. So, I mean, I would have much rather had a full off season. I mean, I played a little more than half or less than half of the fall league, but I mean, right after the season, that's all you're thinking. But then when they tell you they want you to go to the fall league, you kind of have some bitterness in you with it all. But at the same time, I kind of took that as a challenge, and I was like, all right, now I'm going to go prove and show the guy that I am, and everybody knows that I am and that I can be. So I had to put my ego and pride away for a little bit and just know that this was the best thing for me. Just for long-term career too, and figuring everything out. A lot of people I feel like think, oh, like, yeah, you struggle and then you just kind of, all right, I want to end the season and just get back to work. But at the same time, now that I've been through that, I had those feelings about it. But then now that I ended up the way that I did and I found it, I feel like it was for the best for me to keep playing and grind through it.
I believe you've talked about it in other interviews, but did you feel like you were chasing power or pull happy a little bit earlier in the season? And how does that compare to how you felt you were at the plate to end the year?
Yeah, 100%. I was definitely chasing. I feel like I think I was just maturing into my body too a little bit. And I know that the damage that I could do. So I was forcing a lot of that. So which created me to chase a lot of pitches and made me kind of get away from my my strike zone discipline and things like that. But then once I kind of got back to once we kind of went through that little phase of talking with each other on that Zoom call a while back, I don't remember when that was, but then things kind of just started clicking, going back to normal of just being the guy that I am. Don't try to be someone else you're not. And once I kind of figured that out in my head, it was good after that.
What are your signs that you felt like you were on track? Is it hard contact to left center, or is it just kind of a feel in the box? What did you kind of feel like, all right, this is me?
I would say it was definitely just my mindset. I was going in the box now. I was thinking I'm swinging. First pitch, I'm ready. You throw it here, I'm ready to hit. I felt sometimes that I could get a little passive and be like, I'm just gonna see this one, or I'm just gonna see what this looks like. Once I did that, I felt like that bat was over. if I'm being honest. So, but once I got in there and I stepped in the box, and I'm like, throw it right here. Like I'm ready for it. Once I started having that mentality and that mindset with it all, I just felt more on the hunt and attacking the pitches that I knew. Even if it was off speed, I was just ready for it. And when I stepped in the box and I was locked in from the first pitch, I felt like it was either I was going to get walked or I was going to get hit. You know, that's just kind of in my mindset what I thought about it all. And I would just say my first initial move is the biggest thing for me, and my hands just getting ready. And my hitting guy always says it's like a dance between me and the pitcher. So once he goes, I go. After that, we're kind of getting back my agency and with the White Sox, we're kind of just getting back into being more of the athlete that I am. You know, played basketball and football, so we're doing a lot of things like that, just trying to get me back to being an athlete. And I'm maturing more, so I'm gaining weight and things like that. So we want to be able to stick at shortstop because I know I'm a shortstop. Even though I played third in the fall league, that does not mean anything. I was just playing third, anything to help the team win and just get in the lineup, you know. So I'm a shortstop, and that's it. So it's been good here. I mean, I'm excited for the rest of the offseason. It's still pretty early, so it's been fun.
Colson, I'll piggybacking off of that. What you're talking about, you know, you wish you were there. Obviously, ultimate goals, you know, get to the big leagues. But you've talked about, I mean, you've used the word failure a few times in this Zoom here, and are you almost in a weird way like happy that call didn't come, that you didn't have the kind of that bad taste in your mouth, the excitement of the big leagues, maybe a little bit of like rough spot when you get here in September, and then you don't play the fall league? Instead, you do go to the fall league, you get kind of that upswing, and you take that into your offseason kind of with a clean slate.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. I don't know if I've been asked that yet, but like I always say, is just you never. Let me. How am I going to phrase this? I just feel like in my life, I feel like everything's worked out the way it's supposed to, and the timing has worked out the way it's supposed to. And this year, I definitely felt like I was forcing myself to try and be where I wasn't at and not be where my feet were. And I feel like that was one of the main reasons why I wasn't able to catch my stride, is because I was always looking to the big leagues and seeing that and saying, oh, I can help out. I want to be up there to do whatever I can. But at the same time, when I was doing that, I wasn't helping myself of where I was at in the time being and getting ready for that day and ready for that game. So I just feel like it was a lot of emotions. Yes, I wanted to be up there. You want to be in the big leagues and you want to be the best. But at the same time, yes, I was happy I wasn't up there because I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what I needed to do to get better as a baseball player and be the best version I can be as a baseball player. So there's a lot of mixed emotions, you know. So I want to be up there and help. At the same time, I'm happy I wasn't up there because I learned from what I needed to learn from being in AAA and going to the fall league.
What have been told about the plans for you and your role with this team for this upcoming season?
Mm-hmm. So I actually have a call with them on Thursday, and we're going to talk about all that stuff. But at the end of the year, all of the coaches, we sat together and we kind of went over what I need to improve on and what I need to just continue to keep getting better, like some of the infield coordinators and things like that. And they were pretty pleased and happy with how I played defensively throughout the year, and I was really happy about it, because I felt like I played the best that I ever have at shortstop. So it was pretty cool to just play a full season and be healthy, pretty much. So that's number one goal, is just be healthy and be able to play every single day. And I think the biggest thing they just said is just continuing to grow as a player and gain wisdom from other big leaguers, and just keep maturing as a player.
I mean, obviously, you've been asked a lot about hitting this season, but you talked very positively about your defense. Just what are the big strides you feel like you've made that maybe make, obviously you've been confident the whole time you can be a major league shortstop, but what's really kind of seemed like it's taken a step forward to make that even more realistic now?
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing was I improved my internal clock a lot, and I felt like I was locked in the whole time when I was playing shortstop, and I was always thinking of if the ball hits me, where am I going? And things like that. Not waiting of, if the ball hits me, what do I got to do? No, I was already ahead of it. And I feel like that was one of the biggest things is I was thinking in the moment, but at the same time, I was thinking ahead of time where I was going with the ball. What do I got to do? And things like that. So I feel like that was one of the biggest things that kind of changed my mindset. And I was thinking the ball was going to hit me every single time. And I was going to do whatever I could to keep the ball in the infield and do whatever I can to help my pitchers out.
We'll react to what Colson Montgomery had to say in just a moment, but we have to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. With the Black Friday sales events going on all month long at Ray Chevrolet, you can score doorbuster deals on your next vehicle without the door-busting stress. Head in today to shop their huge savings of new Chevy models with special Black Friday prices. Right now, take up to $3,250 up to $13,000 off new MSRP. Right now, take up to $3,250. I was trying to make sure I said the numbers right. $3,250 up to $13,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models, or shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of the Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. So visit our partner this November at their location in Route 12 in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevy, then you also heard of Ray's Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever, with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. And this is on top of the great Black Friday sales events. So head into Ray Chevrolet now, shop the Black Friday sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
It's going to snow tonight. Boo! But thankfully, folks, Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy is a year-round offering now from the fine folks up there at Leinenkugel's. It puts you in the summer state of mind even when it's nasty and cold and terrible outside. I can go out onto the deck and keep grilling if I've got a Summer Shandy in my hand. I can go down to the lake, keep picnicking if I've got a Summer Shandy in my hand. It's perfect for tailgates, and it feels like summer. But hey, maybe you're welcoming the cold and the snow. Everybody can do their own thing. If that's the case, you want a little bit more variety, right? You want the honey vice and the berry vice. You want the sunset wheat. You want the lakeside cherry. You can even drive up to the coldest place in the world, Wisconsin, and get a Leinie's original. They have so many varieties, and they're all so good. So, folks, flavor every moment with Leinenkugel's. It is the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leinie.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugel's pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugel's, flavor the moment, celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes! Do you know where the coldest place in the world is?
Siberia. Tonight, it's going to be here.
Okay. Google says it's New Amsterdam, Indiana.
The coldest place in the world is in Indiana?
That's what it says.
Wow, that says a lot.
All right. Let's jump into some more Colson talk here. I think the biggest thing that...
Speaking of Indiana,
the biggest thing that stuck out to me there was him just very declarative, very demonstratively, one of those words, I am a shortstop. Telling Scott Merkin, hey, Scott's like, what's it been like being at your agency? He's like, that's a great question, Scott. I'm a shortstop. Just to let you know, and everyone know, I played a little bit of third base at the Arizona Fall League. I'm a shortstop, period.
You saw the body language that went along with it, too. I mean, listen, he's, in his early 20s. He's on the social medias. I'm sure he knows what people are asking about him and what they might even think of him. If if you're talking about reading online scouting reports and that kind of thing, he knows it's a big question for folks. What position is he going to play in the major leagues? He's here to say that he's only going to play the one. And I think, listen, a theme of that entire interview was self-confidence, right? I mean, a guy who got knocked down a peg a little bit last year, and it frustrated him. He copped to the idea that it was bothering him, that he was taking it to the field, that he maybe wasn't handling those emotions all that well. It seems like one of the things that he has learned to do is have that little bit better emotional outlook, and that goes hand in hand with the confidence that he's kind of always had since he joined this organization. But the idea that he is going to be playing shortstop, I mean, yeah, the White Sox are going to give him every opportunity to do it. So he shouldn't be scared that they're going to move him. Right now, it's just talk by folks that do things like we do, and folks who do write-ups online, and fans who maybe just have questions about where it's going to end up for him. But he doesn't have to worry about that from the people who are actually going to be making those decisions. He thinks he can let his play speak for himself. The play will speak for itself, for better or worse, right, in terms of whether he's going to be a shortstop or end up requiring a positional switch. But I think he's confident in what he did defensively last year. I think he's confident and maybe even a little sick of hearing about these questions. He's going, guys, don't even worry about it. I played third base just because it's the Arizona Fall League and they had to play other people at shortstop. Don't worry about it. Like you said, he wasn't even really asked about that, and he just felt the need to put it in there. You can tell he's reading the narrative just as much as everybody else is, but he's confident that he can break it.
There's multiple things there for me where, firstly, you're advocating for yourself. And if we as White Sox fans have learned anything about these players, you don't advocate for yourself. They're going to put you where they want to put you. I mean, Garrett Crochet had to advocate for himself to be a starting pitcher this offseason, and he got the job done. And now he's one of the top starting pitchers in the major leagues. We saw that Yoan Moncada started his major league career with the White Sox at second base, did not like second base, said, I'm much better third baseman. He advocated for himself, moved to third base, and he's much more comfortable. Now we see the opposite things happening for other players who just wanted to help the team to win, where we talk about Andrew Vaughn in his first couple of years playing the outfield. He's not an outfielder. And we said, those years of playing the outfield might have taken something off of his bat. And so his confidence also did not get to the level that he needed to be with the first base switch, which he eventually got to. So if you are, as Colson Montgomery, saying, I got to advocate for myself to be here in shortstop, cool. And also, it's also in his own mind, confidence. If I say it, if I manifest it, that means that I'm putting myself, having the responsibility of putting in the work to become a shortstop, to stay at shortstop. So I love the kid. I love how candid he was in that interview. It seems like he's got a little bit more like self-assuredness. He's grown up. Maturity seems like it's on the forefront now. I love the answers he gave right there. And yeah, if you're not saying that you're a shortstop, the White Sox and any other team will move you wherever you need to be moved so you can fit on the team. And he's like, hell no, I'm a shortstop and you ain't moving me. I'm going to play there. And so that's declarative. That's the statement you need to make. And I'm hoping he puts in the work that goes along with being a top shortstop.
You talk about maturing. I think my favorite quote in there was, and I don't know if he meant to do this on purpose, but he was listing some of the things he's working on this offseason. And he says, quote, I'm maturing, gaining some weight. I think I'm going to start using that. Whenever I gain a little weight, he's talking about muscle in the weight room. I'm talking about down here. Whenever I gain a little weight, I'm just going to be like, hey, I'm just maturing. That's all.
It's a part of life. Everyone matures, folks. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button as we're talking about Colson Montgomery to at least answer moment of Zendo. Love the guy, but doesn't he need to still work on cutting down his strikeouts in the minors still? I would say not really. You look at the leaders for at least 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds in K percentage in at least the International League. He is near the top there, but the guys that are comparing him to, Kevin Alcantara, who has a chance to crack the opening day roster for the Cubs, he led the league in 29.1% for at least 21 to 22-year-olds. Alcantara, an 11.5 walk percentage. Montgomery has a half higher walk percentage and a less K percentage, so he has a better walk to K ratio. And Montgomery's walk to K ratio is, 14th? Around Colby Mayo, Brian Ramos's, and Jordan Walker. So I don't have too much concern. Jason Dominguez as well.
I would push back, though, because I think you're comparing him to all the other players in the league, right? I'd compare him to himself. And the thing that he was doing in the lower levels of the minor leagues was walking a ton and not striking out as much. And I think the thing that Zendo points out, it is a worthy concern. It's that those strikeout numbers went way up and the walk numbers did not go way up alongside them, right? I think he had something like 100 more strikeouts than walks last year. And yeah, again, everything is relative and that's fine, but he goes to the Arizona Fall League and he walks more times than he strikes out. So I think he definitely does need to cut down on the strikeouts. Might not be a deal breaker in terms of his being a good player if he strikes out more than he did when he was in AA for an admittedly much shorter period of time than he was in AAA. But if you're talking about the excitement that he produced for his future in the first couple stops of the minor leagues. It was a guy who got on base just a ton. That on base percentage in 2023 was up over 450 or something like that. It plummeted relative to that last year. It would be nice if he could continue to be that guy who gets on base over and over and over again and doesn't maybe succumb to the strikeouts as much as he did in 2024.
Right. The reason he was a top 10 prospect was, 56 strikeouts to 55 walks, right, or 56 walks in AA, 1-to-1 there, but still 169 strikeouts, or what is it exactly? 164 strikeouts to 69 walks. It's not the end of the world. A similar player as Mark Vientos, at least his year in 2023 or 2024 in AAA, 28.6% to a 12% walk rate. Montgomery's at the same exact rate there. So if you're talking about potential shortstop, third baseman, Vientos was just great with the Mets. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think what he was doing in AA was probably a little just unrealistic, and now we're seeing a little bit more major league type velocity, and that's causing more strikeouts. Not a huge concern for me because he still has around 70 walks. It still seems like he has that ability, and if we heard a question about Ryan Fuller. It doesn't seem like they've talked, but it does seem like Colson will be a huge project for Ryan Fuller, and maybe making sure that those already decent swing decisions just get more improved. And I think it's likely that Montgomery could cut down his walk or strikeout rate already, and maybe he's more of like a 25% K rate to like a 13 to 14% walk rate, and I'd have no issues with that.
I know that he's not necessarily a 100% like a slugger, like an old school Pete Incaviglia, but the strikeout numbers to me don't matter as much as long as you have a high slug, as Austin talks about. This year, I didn't have a real high slug, but his September numbers were very encouraging towards that. But yeah, if he is the player that just has better swing decisions and happens to strike out, I'm fine with those. Like, you're just a major league player. Those players are getting paid on the mound to get you out. Now, the thing that struck me in this interview is that he was just frustrated with not being in the major leagues and thinking about major leagues. I could help that struggling White Sox major league club while he was struggling in Charlotte himself. And he said, I need to be where my feet are. And I've heard that a term ad nauseum, but it means something. It makes sense. Like, you're just thinking about the top of the top all the time, where you got to do the process first. You have to go through the grind first. You have to embrace the grind before you get up to the top, and then you need to be where your feet are. I hope he feels that next year, because he might not be in the major leagues as soon as he wants to be next year. It might be the whole year. It might be a couple months before he is actually in the major leagues. So keep on grinding. Don't be frustrated if you're hitting 300+ and hitting a bunch of home runs down there in Charlotte. You're down there for a reason. And if they're saying that you're not ready, be where you are, not thinking about the major leagues. And I think that that's part of the maturity that he's had as a 22-year-old, to understand, like, nothing's given, everything is worked for, and everything is earned. And that, I hope, is imparted by the White Sox staff, that, hey, man, you'll be up here when you're ready, not a second before that.
Well, and I think that's the whole positive of having so many former major leaguers in this front office, from Getz to I was going to say Bourgeois, but he's the first base coach.
Giannis,
Josh
Barfield, Giannis, Bannister, etc. I think that's probably the biggest help to him, is now that he's probably open and honest. If he's being open and honest to the media about this, he's probably being open and honest to Chris Getz about this, that he was just a little bit probably too anxious. Hopefully they can settle him down, get him on the right course, an offseason to reflect on what just happened, having to go back to the Arizona Fall League. Hopefully this all leads to a more focused and, a better producing Colson Montgomery. We'll talk about what happens if he has a nice, April down in Charlotte after the break. But it does seem like he wouldn't be opposed to being on the opening day roster come April. So we'll talk about that in just a second. We're going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast.
They say that first impressions are important. What about lasting impressions? That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew helps boost your confidence in the bedroom so you can stay hard and perform at your very best. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, You'll receive your prescription within days. And I know you're asking, Herb, does it work? Do you think I need to try it? Well, how about you try it for free for a month and see? You're going to love it, and your partner's going to love it too. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month for free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information, and we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
Thank you very much. We also want to let you know about our friends over at CHSN. We're sponsored by Chicago Sports Network, the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox game. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're also Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core. And they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our 78 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch Bulls, Hawks, and Sox games all season long.
You think there's somebody just sitting over there in the empty lot with a TV?
What empty lot?
You said 78 neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah, that lot. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, 100%. I think they probably have a Jumbotron out there already.
I know you said 78 neighborhoods on purpose, so I was piggybacking off of that.
You know, it's just so natural that there's 78 neighborhoods in Chicago. I mean, the 77 doesn't feel right. I think it says 77 neighborhoods back here. You know, Jerry wants us to come and revamp this background. So
it's not going to be a 78th neighborhood.
No,
it's just already South Loop.
Nah, dude. It's going to be a movement.
Yeah.
It's like a couple blocks.
Literally. It's like a square. Goose Island's got its own island. You know?
Yeah, right.
I mean, is that an actual island?
Yeah, it's in the middle of the river. Surrounded by water on all sides. That's the definition of an island.
All right.
Yeah.
Colson Montgomery, he seemed pretty amped to be able to play for the White Sox in 2025, the shortstop of the 2025 White Sox. What's a realistic timeline for Colson in 2025? I know some people yesterday were talking about him being on the opening day roster. I still feel like that's far-fetched. Colson doesn't seem like that's far-fetched. I mean, if he has a great spring training, is it possible?
It's probably greater than zero, you know what I mean? But I don't think it's much greater than zero. Listen, he's talking about believing in himself and being confident in himself. Of course, he thinks he's going to be, starting at shortstop 162 times for the big league club next year. Keep thinking that, buddy. That's the way that you're going to, have some success. Good for you. But I don't think that that's the most likely thing in the world, just because there's probably so many things in AAA that he didn't do last year that they'd like to see him do. They want to see him be able to master some of the stuff that he obviously didn't do. You can just look at the numbers and understand that there were some things. Now, you can't tell necessarily exactly what those are, because the White Sox, like any team, are looking for things in development that don't necessarily show up in the box score specifically. But it doesn't take somebody that's got a key to guaranteed rate field to know that there's probably some stuff that he still needs to work on. All that being said, it might not take him long to show that he has mastered those things if he has a good offseason, if the positive note that he's ended on here really has made the White Sox as happy as they seem to be with him at the moment, and make him as happy as he seems to be with his own progress that he seems like at the moment. So I think that it could be a month and a half, and he could be right up. I think he's ready for the challenge in terms of the timeline, right? But there's no need to rush him, right? If they were trying to win next year and they thought he was the best option they had at shortstop, and it'd be better to have him for 162 games than 125, then yeah, he could be on the opening day roster. But they're not expected to do much of anything. They're expected to be a last place team. Why do you need to rush up a kid who you need to nail the development of? You need to get it right. He's going to be a centerpiece of this thing a couple years down the road. That's when you need him to be at his best. When he comes up, he's going to have some more development to do, but it's about checking the boxes that he needs to get checked at AAA. And I would think that those haven't all been checked all the way yet, and it'll probably take a few weeks, a month, a couple of months to get all that done, even if he has a great spring, which he very well could. But we'll see how it turns out. I do think, though, he will not be on the opening day roster, but I don't think it will be very long until he is on the major league team.
I would think even if Colson Montgomery tore up AAA in 2024, he would not be on the Major League opening day roster in 2025 because, as my old friend Barry Rosner used to say about Chris Bryant, 7 is greater than 6. So why would the White Sox, who are in a huge, long rebuild, start him at the Major League level to start his clock that early? So he isn't a guy who killed AAA in 2024, so he will need to at least do some of that down there in Charlotte in the International League for them to bring him up. And like Vinny says, like a month and a half, he's doing well down there in Charlotte. The lessons are being learned, and you see production and the things that he needs to be doing and picking up the ball at shortstop, throwing to first with a lack of errors. I could see him up in a month and a half and being the guy for him here on out. But yeah, I think that there's no reason to put him as the opening A shortstop. Now, he might be the actual best shortstop on the White Sox roster, but as I said, it's a business too. They need to have Colson Montgomery be hitting. He needs to be the guy in this rebuild, and so there's no stone going to be unturned for his development. They're going to make sure that he is that guy before they bring him up, because the embarrassment of putting him back down to the minors would be like catastrophic for the White Sox, where he's not ready and you bring him up and then he's got to go back down to AAA. So you're just resetting that rebuild clock for a little longer on.
Well, I agree with you, mainly because it does seem like he's already itching to be out of AAA. It seemed like he was in AAA and he was like, okay, I'm ready for the majors. It seemed like he was just ready to completely skip a step, which obviously hurt, and he just did not take AAA, it seemed like, seriously as he should. I think going down and starting in AAA is best for him. Have him itching, have him trying to hit every single mark so that he doesn't have to spend an entire season in AAA in 2024. I think it is possible that spring training he is the best shortstop in on the club and the organization's best option there. But again, it seems like you have to have him be 100%, 110% ready before you give him this opportunity to make that jump up. And even though September was interesting, it's still not enough. You dominating the Arizona Fall League for 11 games is not enough. What can you do over your first full month after an off-season work and a reset of maybe a disappointing AAA season?
And there's nothing to lose, like we were saying, right? I mean, well, there'll be a lot to lose, but they're going to lose regardless, right? I mean, I think you say he might be the best shortstop in camp, or he might be the best shortstop in the organization. Okay, but he still hasn't mastered AAA. Mastering the Cactus League is not mastering AAA, right? Mm-hmm. So let him go ahead and go back to the minors, or not even go back, stay in the minors for just a little bit longer to show that you've learned the lessons that you're talking about learning, right? If he truly is over the idea of, I'm going to be in the big league soon, I don't need to worry about this. Not that that's exactly how he felt, but that he had his mind set on the big leagues more than he did on what was right in front of him. If he's truly learned that lesson, show it to us. And then 3 weeks later, we'll put you on the big league team if you've truly mastered that.
And also, I couldn't imagine being cool as a competitor to seeing people who maybe he thinks he is better than being in the major leagues, getting the major league call up before he does. Jacob Amaya, not to cast any aspersions against these guys, but Jacob Amaya, a Brooks Baldwin who had a good year, but I would think if I'm Colson Montgomery, like, he's good, but I'm better. So why is that man getting the call up and I'm not? And I'm supposed to be the person? I'm supposed to be the man of this rebuild? Come on now. I'm sure as the competitor in him is like looking at those people, and that's why his feet weren't where they need to be. And it's like, that guy's not as good as I am. Why is he getting the call up? I'm going to tell them and I'm going to show them. And why am I getting sent down to Arizona again? I dominated that. No, I dominated. I won the All-Star Fall Stars last year, the MVP. Why you got to go back down there and redo this stuff? Like, it seems like he's got a chip on his shoulder, and I hope he does. I hope he carries that chip on his shoulder for the rest of his career, because it seems like these people are not ready for me. When I get to the major leagues, I'm going to stay here. And I love the attitude the kid had. I hope he keeps that head down and grinds for the rest of the time he's in the majors.
A fair amount of accountability, too. It was a lot of I statements, which is most important. You know, if he was just like, oh, I'm better than that guy and I deserve to be on the major league roster. No, you don't. Shut up, you 22-year-old. Like, Ramos had a better AAA stint than him, at least by weighted runs created plus. So he wasn't even the best top prospect on the White Sox in AAA last year. So there is definitely some clear marks that Colson has to hit. But if he's got an 855 OPS after April and he's doing well during May, I don't think there's a reason for them to hold him down. I've always comped him to Tim. Tim got called up June 10th against the Kansas City Royals and then played 6 home games. Weirdly enough, it's flipped. June 2nd, the Tigers come for 4 and the Royals come for 3. June 2nd, is that too early for Colson Montgomery? That's around the same.
It entirely depends on how Colson does at AAA, but if he does well, then no, that's not too early.
No, it's perfect time.
All right. If that's a little bit too early, they go to Toronto they welcome the Cardinals on June 17th. Then they go to Toronto for June 20th. But then from the 23rd to the 29th, they host the D-backs and Giants. So maybe there's another 6-game stretch there. But I think it is possible that he gets called up in June if he's able to hit as well as he did near the end of the year. There were only a couple of players that had 25 barrels, 58 barrels, or 58 players had 25 plus barrels in AAA last year. Colson Montgomery had 25. How perfect for us. But Montgomery, the average exit velocity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. He was 7th in average exit velocity on barreled balls. So that's just behind Alexander Canario, Matt Wallner, who's been a major league player, Reese Hines, Jose De La Cruz, Davicion De Los Santos, and Pedro Leon. So although the numbers weren't there, when he did hit the ball hard, he did hit the ball hard effectively. So as long as it's just maybe more being consistent, knowing where your feet are, and having those better at-bats, we can see Colson kind of shine in AAA and be able to make that jump in 2025. I don't think it's likely, though, for him to start on opening day. That's why shortstop is still blank on our offseason project plan. If you are new, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We did get some news, some White Sox contract news. James Fegan releasing the final number, the official number.
Of the White Sox. The White Sox have announced it. The Austin Slater signing is official.
The Austin Slater signing.
James might have had it before they announced it.
I have no idea. I saw James just tweet it out first. Did they cut anyone? So now they're 40 man's at 40?
No.
Whoa.
You're getting way ahead of yourself here. Austin Slater signing official today. Now, yesterday, they put Colson as well as Juan Carrella on the 40-man roster to protect them from the Rule 5 draft, which takes place next month at the winter meetings. They had 4 empty 40-man roster spots. They have filled 3 of them in the last 2 days. The 40-man roster, who, for all you 40-man nerds out there, is at 39.
Thank you very much, Vinny. Which means if they wanted to take 2 players in the Rule 5 draft, they would need to cut somebody from the current 40-man roster, but that isn't until December.
But they can't take 2 players. Huh? They can't take 2 players. You get 1 pick.
The first pick.
And they have the first pick.
They do have the first pick.
Best pick.
Anyways, there is the non-tender and tender deadline coming up on Friday, so we'll see if there are any spots possibly opened up by those moves. Right now, here is the roster that I have. Corey Lee at catcher. He's making league minimum. Gavin Sheets at first base. He's making $3 million. Second base, I have Lenine Sosa. He's making league minimum. Shortstop is open because we still don't feel like Colson will be an opening day addition. Third base, I have Vargas making league minimum. Left field, Andrew Benintendi at $17.1 million. Center field, Luis Robert Jr. making $15 million. Right field, Dominic Fletcher making league minimum. Designated hitter, Brian Ramos making league minimum. There is a backup catcher spot open. Then I have Brooks Baldwin making league minimum on our bench. Austin Slater making $1.75 million on our bench, and then another open spot that I will get to in a second. That means the current roster is at $59 million with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 openings. So we'll see how they end up spending that. If you do think they have like $95 million to spend, they should be able to spend $35 million in free agency.
On bench players.
Yeah. It seems unbelievable.
I can't help to hear what you just said. You said Gavin Sheets playing first base?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the tender or non-tender. I mean, I think they're going to save money, and this is part of it with the protection of the 40-man roster, protecting players from the Rule 5 draft. There have been players that are unprotected, and there are plenty of first basemen out there that could be the White Sox or a part of the White Sox starting lineup when it comes to opening day. Baseball America, specifically, I believe this was J.J. Cooper, but I want to get it right. It was Jeff Pontes and Jake J. Cooper. They released their top players to know that were unprotected for the upcoming Rule 5 draft. Blaine Krim, a first baseman for the Texas Rangers. Bob Seymour, a first baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays. Shane Smith, a right-handed pitcher from the Milwaukee Brewers. Kalai Rosario, outfielder for the Minnesota Twins. Ricardo Olivar, catcher, outfielder for the Minnesota Twins. Ryan Ward, first baseman, outfielder for the Dodgers. Omar Alfonso, catcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Sammy Ciani, outfielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates. AJ Vukovic, outfielder for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Damon Keith, an outfielder in the Dodgers organization. Miguel Ulola, a right-handed pitcher from the Astros organization, and then Brian Magdaleno, a left-handed pitcher from the Rangers organization. The main three names that I want you to focus on are Blaine Krim, Bob Seymour, and Kalai Rosario. Krim, a right-handed first baseman. He was a 19th round selection in the 2019 amateur draft by the Texas Rangers. He was available to be selected in last year's Rule 5 draft. Last year, he was coming off a 582 plate appearance season. He had 22 home runs, 31 doubles, and in Round Rock, a 290, 385, and 506 slugging. This year, 586 plate appearances, 33 doubles, 20 home runs, 277 batting average, 370 on base percentage, and a 469 slugging percentage. His 3 seasons in AAA, 42 home runs, 65 doubles, a 283 batting average, a 374 on base percentage, and a 478 slug. So the reason why I did have our guy, Gavin Sheets, as first base and Andrew Vaughn off is because Gavin Sheets is a lefty. Andrew Vaughn costs more money. Blaine Krim would make minimum league money. And there you go. You have a platoon for first baseman.
Platoon's all over.
You got a lefty in Blaine Krim, or you got a righty in Blaine Krim to face lefties. You got a lefty in Gavin Sheets to face righties. I think it's possible to see that play out. Now, there is a scenario, Herb, where Andrew Vaughn is tendered.
Yes.
And they go with the first base platoon, and they have righty Andrew Vaughn for those dastardly lefties. And they add Bob Seymour, a first baseman from the Tampa Bay Rays.
It's a made-up person.
A local product who's not made up. He was a 13th round pick in the 2021 amateur draft out of Wake Forest. He's from Mount Carmel High School in Chicago, Illinois. And the thing that is most important here, in Durham, in 193 at-bats, 7 doubles, 19 home runs, 269 average, 353 on base, and a 601 slug. So a ton of home runs, a ton of pop from the left side for Seymour. I don't know if these are names that would go number 1 overall in the Rule 5 draft, but they seem like they are on the precipice of making a major league roster. They've done a lot in the AAA levels. So is this the opportunity to call somebody up or to get somebody that playing time and to free them up? I think we've seen a lot of baseball from Gavin Sheets and Andrew Vaughn. You haven't seen a lot of baseball from Bob Seymour and Blaine Krim, mainly because why are you watching Round Rock and Durham? But hey, I think those are two guys that are on the precipice, that have shown a lot of pop in AAA, that could possibly give some power to the White Sox roster immediately, and they wouldn't have to trade them back.
Certainly the White Sox are a team that can capitalize on whoever they take in the Rule 5 draft because they got opportunity for them, right? There are not a lot of places on this roster in which you wouldn't be able to find playing time for someone who you take with the number 1 pick in the Rule 5 draft. That being said, the Rule 5 draft means you got to give that opportunity to that person. You can't stash them down in the minor leagues or anything like that. I would say that Blaine Krim and Bob Seymour are 2 wonderful mid-century baseball names. Mm-hmm. Feel like they probably went up against Joe DiMaggio at one point, but here's another question. Why was that one player in AAA for 3 years? That's a long time to be in AAA. You would think if he was so great that the major league team would want him, and that's kind of the whole point of the Rule 5 draft, right, is that you are, even if you have the number 1 pick, you're taking a flyer on somebody because, heck, they weren't wanted by their own team, right? They were left unprotected. So I don't think you can put too much excitement into, oh boy, the White Sox are going to get somebody great in the Rule 5 draft. They might, but the overwhelming likelihood is let's see what this guy can do, and we'll see if he turns into anything.
Well, and that's really it. It's not even that this guy could be great. It's more the White Sox have the opportunity to give people chances.
Right.
And especially with the Rule 5, like, you have to keep this person on your roster and give them this major league opportunity to not have to trade them back. I think at least Seymour and Krim, there is a way where they would get those opportunities if certain tenders or non-tenders happen.
Blaine, that's his name, Blaine?
Yeah.
Like Blaine's Farm and Fleet.
Is that okay?
That's not a name. That's a major appliance. Somebody got that. Blaine Krim, no, I would not want him. He's going to be 27, 28 next year. And those numbers you put up, you talked about, are in Round Rock, which is in the PCL. And that place in that whole league is a hitter's paradise. So, no, he's a little long in the tooth. And I think underperforming in a league that you should be performing well at. As Vinny said, he's been there for 3 years.
He's also a 19th round pick. The fact that he's a 19th round pick making it to AAA and has had like 60 homers is also an accomplishment.
Yes.
What the hell? You've tripped in a alley.
Congratulations. You're comparing me to Blaine Krim. That means that Blaine Krim loses. Out. If you're comparing him to a 46-year-old podcaster, he's out. Now, Bob Seymour, fine. Lefty power bat. I would look more at him than I would look at Blaine Krim because, yeah, there's nothing there. If the Texas Rangers don't want you up there and you've been in the AAA toiling down there in a league that you should be offensively kicking ass.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, as the Rule 5 draft, there have been some people that have found some spots and have been some names that have turned into something at the major league level. I'm not saying any of these guys are, the guys that they need to draft. But again, if you're looking at people that haven't had those opportunities, guys with 0 Major League Baseball games played, maybe this is the opportunity because we've seen a ton of games from Gavin Sheets. We've seen a ton of games from Andrew Vaughn. If we're even thinking about calling up Tim Elko, who was also a 10-plus round draft pick, who's a right-handed side, like I would rather have Blaine Krim than Tim Elko, at least for the 2025 MLB season. Like it's just comparing the actual inside the organization options. Would you rather give Vaughn that shot than a Blaine Krim if you're just comparing? Why?
Because I think that Vaughn has a better pedigree. He's got a better system in his, and he's used to the major leagues too. He's been in the major leagues. So if it just takes a little tweak of Vaughn's swing decisions, I think that he will be much better than what Blaine Krim will ever be.
I'm not advocating for Blaine Krim. I'm just more saying, like, I don't think there's anything in Vaughn that sticks out as, oh, this is a guy that makes great swing decisions, but it's just, under the ball a little bit too much. He seems slow. He seems weak. He seems a lot unathletic, or a lot more unathletic than originally scouted. I think Vaughn could just possibly be a dud, and Vaughn's making $5.3 million more than Blaine Krim would make. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest thing that we have to take in consideration. The other names that are out there, Kalai Rosario, he is, he's Hawaiian, so I'm probably mispronouncing his name, so I apologize for that. But he's from Waikiki High School. He was a 5th-round pick in the 2020 amateur draft out of Waikiki High School, did not go to college. 6 foot, 205. He's an outfielder that bats right, throws right. He made it all the way up to AA last year, 264 at-bats, 235 batting average, 321 on-base percentage, 405 slugging. And then in the fall league, 291, 383, 430. That's in 79 at-bats. That's the other thing. Like, yes, you get a younger player here in Kalai Rosario, but hasn't made it to AAA, is younger, and has just less of a background to work on. I feel like if you're going out after one of these players, like Rosario is even going to be able to make the roster, or are you just going to be trading him back by the end of spring training? Like, how realistic is it that one of these guys gets added to the White Sox opening day roster? I think if you're drafting number 1 overall, you have to pick somebody that's going to contribute to the 2025 team. That's why Seymour and Krim are up there, because they're the closest to the major league levels and their bats. There's a ton of arms that are out there. Maybe they look for a 5th starter or a relief pitcher in the Rule 5 draft, but at least if I'm Chris Getz and I see the spots open at first base and the outfield, if they still feel like that, I feel like you at least have to take that 1st overall shot on a bat.
Costs you money too. Not as much as you'd be paying a player, nowhere near as much as they're paying Austin Slater, for example, but it's still $100,000, I believe, it costs to make a selection in the Rule 5 draft. That's why a lot of teams just pass.
I would go for the best player available, no matter what position he's at. I don't care if the White Sox have a bunch of starting pitchers and or relievers. Give me the best person available. You have the number 1 pick for a reason. Give that person a shot, because your team is going to be in a dearth of talent. Why don't you bring the most talented person over and see what he can do?
Yeah, I don't know who that is. I mean, that's the whole point of the Rule 5 draft, is you're picking from discounts or injured players. Shane Smith is highly thought of out of Milwaukee's organization. He pitched in 2/3 in AAA. In 5 relief stints in AA, he had a 3.39 ERA or 3.08 ERA in 16 games started, 87 and 2/3. Like these are, it's nothing really impressive for a 24-year-old. Like there isn't a name that is a for sure clear cut number one on every single one's board for the Rule 5 draft.
Because it's the Rule 5 draft.
It's the Rule 5 draft. So there isn't a name like that. And I think the biggest thing, at least that I've noticed below Rosario, is it seems like most of these players are just not in the right timeline. It seems like Krim and Seymour could be in the right timeline. Our guy, Jim Margolis, did throw out an honorable mention. Jason Ruffcorn in the Seattle Mariners organization. Scott's son is available. So if you want a little reunion there, you can get Jason Ruffcorn.
His daddy didn't make it.
Elijah Evans. He had a top 5 list. He lists Josh Steffen of the Texas Rangers, a right-handed pitcher, Zach Messenger, a right-handed pitcher of the New York Yankees, Kalai Rosario, the outfielder of Minnesota, Griff McGarry, a right-handed pitcher from the Philadelphia Phillies, and Ian Bedell, a right-handed pitcher of the St. Louis Cardinals. I think that name's wrong. No, it's not. Okay, Ian Bedell. And then the other names that I just wanted to throw out there, Christian Robinson, an outfielder from Arizona, a former top 100 prospect that has bounced around a fair bit, has never really been healthy, has never played past AAA, but he's a former top 100 prospect, so it's got to be good, right? That's it on the Rule 5 stuff. One of the bigger things that I looked at yesterday with the shrinking of a 40-man roster, with some guys being DFA'd, one of those players from Chicago, Brendon Davis, a former top 100 prospect. I believe the Cubs guys said that he got all the way up to 15th in Major League's prospect rankings, but has never made it to the Major Leagues. Last year, 11 homers in 47 games in AAA, but he broke his ankle sliding into second base. This is a player that has dealt with injuries for a ton of his career. Back fractures, broken ankles, you can name it. Every single year, it seems like Brendon Davis has had an injury. I ask you guys, him being 25 years old, being a former top prospect, still performing well in AAA, even with the smattering of injuries, would you take a shot on Brendon Davis, especially with the White Sox? I think they would be near the top in the waiver wire. From what I understand and from what James Fox told me, since he's an NL player, the top NL player can claim him before the White Sox can. But if the top team on the NL order priority doesn't claim him, the White Sox get the chance. So it might not ever fall into their laps, but if Brendon Davis does fall into their laps, at least waiver-wise, should they pick him up?
It's about talent acquisition at the moment in the White Sox rebuild. They don't have to worry about him or anyone soaking up a roster spot that should go to somebody else, really. It's about bringing as much into the organization as you possibly can and seeing what you got for the future. So I don't know really about that player specifically, but the idea that you would just go get anybody, that's where the White Sox are right now, and he falls into that category.
He's hurt all the time, but when he plays, he hits. Natural White Sox. Bring him on the team. Let's go. Why not? I mean, it can't hurt the White Sox. If he's not good, a DFA will be quick. But if he is, you strike gold, you got found money.
Oh, and hey, if he's still hurt, if he was DFA'd, like, can't you just add him to the 40-man and then put him on the IL? There you go.
You can do that, but you have to wait, I think, till spring training or something like that.
He's more interesting than Zach DeLoach. He's more interesting than Oscar Colas.
Yeah.
He's more interesting than Fletcher. He's more interesting than Braden Shoemake. I think there's a ton of 40-man roster spots that they could clear up. Ryan in the chat, our resident Cubs fan, saying, I've been talking to y'all to take Patrick Wisdom.
No.
Davis is too hurt. Wisdom can't hit fastballs and can't play first base well.
Old as hell,
They're not going to
too.
play him at third base. I have no interest in Wisdom.
But remember when he hit all those homers off Dallas Keuchel?
It was pretty crazy. With Davis, you get a player with a ton of control, which I think would be interesting. Davis, I think there's a ton of upside that you could take a shot at. And speaking of that upside, Zach Beck posted this leaderboard over on Blue Sky. And if you want to share that screenshot, Sarah, here is the list of the top pull rates. So this is the players who produced pulled fly balls over 100 mile per hour at the highest rate in AAA last year. Jordan Vilars of Philadelphia had the highest percentage at 12.2%. Jason Dominguez of the Yankees, the Martian, 12%. Dalton Rushing, a top 40 prospects, 11.3%. Alexander Canario, who might make the opening day roster for the Cubs, 10.6%. Colby Thomas of Oakland, 10.2%. Orelvis Martinez, who I believe is a top thought of prospect or top 100 prospect, 9.7%. Colby Mayo, also another top 100 prospect, 9.6%. And then Wes Clark of Milwaukee, 9.3%. Who are the two players in between? Who are the 2 players missing between Mayo and Clark at 9.6 and 9.3?
Colson Montgomery.
No.
Ugh.
Brendon Davis.
This is 25 years older or 25 years old or younger. Brendon Davis is one of them.
There you go. Context clues.
The other context clues is the other player plays for the White Sox.
Oscar Colas.
No.
I don't know.
Miguel Vargas.
Oh, there you go.
So if you want some Miguel Vargas propaganda, there you go. So we'll see what happens with the shakeout of the 40-man roster and how this all plays out. I'd be very, very excited if they were able to get Brendon Davis, and we will obviously have coverage for you on the 40-man roster and the Rule 5 draft as that approaches, mainly and most importantly coming up the non-tender deadline that's happening on Friday. We have a show at 4 p.m. tomorrow, a show on Friday at 4 p.m. as well, so make sure you are joining us then. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We have a Bulls pre- and post-game tonight, so we want you to hang out with our guys at 6 p.m. for their pregame. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.